Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and welcome to Wasteland Talks, my weekly talk show where I talk about whatever the hell I want. And this week, starting a brand new segment called Mix and Match, where your host picks a director, my guest picks a film, and we try to sell that movie. And joining me for this first episode is way back to my film club days, friend Vinny, and also a member of the movie club. Vinny, thank you so much for coming on and being part of this pilot episode.
Thank you for having me.
And what film did you pick?
I picked my favorite movie of the 2010s, which is The Social Network.
And I picked my favorite directors, the Coen brothers. So we're going to sell you on the Coen brothers social network. So, Vinny, right off the bat, what are some of the major differences you imagine in this version of the social network?
I ima- I imagine I imagine the Coen Brothers Social Network to be much more darkly funny. Probably an unexpected act of violence. Some happening like somewhere in the second half of it.
Mhm.
Um, I'm trying to think what else. Well, like what you mentioned before we started recording. Shot by Roger Deakins and
Yep.
scored by Carter Burwell.
There's going to be
Uh,
some rich strings and like specifically like violins and stuff like that in there instead of like that very atmospheric Trent Reznor Atticus Ross score.
and I'm I'm imagining maybe John Turturro as Mark Zuckerberg.
Well, actually, here's a great question. So we have to figure out what era Cohen's we're going to make this story.
Okay.
Because you got like early Cohen's, which is like mid to late 80s. You have that 90s Cohen's where it went into like Fargo and late 90s into like Big Lebowski. Then you have that period where they're just kind of having some fun with like Intolerable Cruelty and Lady Killers. And then No Country for Old Men, True Grit. And then you do have post Deacons Cohen's with like Inside Llewyn Davis and stuff like that.
Okay. So, all right. So you know what? I'm gonna say I can imagine this sort of as like a No Country for Old Men type of thing. You have a parallel between Mark Zuckerberg and Josh Brolin's character. He steals money. Mark Zuckerberg steals the idea for Facebook, and then you have Army Hammer as the Winklevoss twins in the Social Network, paralleling Javier Bardem's character in what's his name? What's his character's
Anton Sugar.
Anton, like paralleling Anton Chigurh coming after the person who stole what he needs.
So like if this is like I guess that 2000s Cohen's, who would you cast as Mark Zuckerberg? Because at that point, I'm pretty sure John Turturro would be a little too old.
Uh
Because that's a tricky thing. A lot of the films in that era of Cohen's were older protagonists.
Before I get to that, and I just want to say, um, and then in No Country for Old Men, Anton Chigurh's weapon of choice is what's the thing called, a captive bolt pistol, or captive.
I just know it like I just call it a cattle gun or like an air gun.
The Winkle in the Coen Brothers Social Network, the weapon of choice for the Winklevoss twins will be their rowing oars.
There you go. I imagine like the big shocking violence will be like when they cut um his best friend out of it. He actually beats the shit out of uh, Mark Zuckerberg in the
Yes,
middle of the Facebook
yes.
offices. It'll be very shocking. Because we could take liberties here because everybody does. Just ask Ridley Scott. But I imagine, yeah, I definitely like that Deacons. This is going to be less of like that, like urban industrial kind of like new kind of thriller look to it. It's going to be that like richer kind of stark cinematography. Carter Burwell, much more like blatantly somber
Mhm.
score going on. I just imagine like the Fargo score, except like when at the very end when Mark Zuckerberg's all by himself, it's just that like really, really sad strings from like Fargo of him just sitting there like, I have no friends. And
That
just
makes
being like
sense.
that like sad feel to it. I'm
You know,
thinking Oscar Isaac needs to be in it.
yeah, I mean, like, we'll get back to him, but in terms of like who I would cast as Mark Zuckerberg, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like the Coen brothers don't cast like a lot of youngish actors.
That's a
So
tricky thing because a lot of their protagonists are older
yeah.
generally. Because like, and you also have to because like Jesse Eisenberg's such a perfect pick for Mark Zuckerberg.
Mhm.
I'm trying to think like John Turturro would be interesting if like the timing worked, or even like a Steve Buscemi.
Well, because you know what, when with the Social Network, but like most of like the main and supporting cast are younger, are like young characters because it takes place on a college campus. So
Yeah.
um yeah, so
Hello, fellow kids. Just have a whole bunch
well,
of middle-aged people.
Steve Buscemi.
Yeah.
How do you do fellow kids?
Because like
um
if we were doing this early '90s, I could imagine like Steve Buscemi and John Turturro being in it, and that would be some interesting casting. Because like I don't know, I can see Steve Buscemi being Mark Zuckerberg. Like it's not exactly like that specific vibe, but he's kind of funny looking. Or like,
um I mean, I'm trying to think.
or even like William H Macy somewhere in there.
Well, maybe William H. Macy as Larry Summers, the president of Harvard.
Interesting. So like if I guess who would you see the Coen brothers casting in like the if we're still going like that No Country for Old Men era Coen brothers, like around that time, who were some younger actors that you feel like would fit in a Coen brothers movie?
Well, I mean, uh, Jonah Hill. He was in Hail Caesar. So I mean, I guess I guess if he lost some weight again like he did 10 years ago, I guess they could cast him as as Mark Zuckerberg. Oh, and
That'd be
also,
interesting.
well, and also Justin Timberlake. He already worked with the Coen brothers for Inside Lewis,
What? Oh,
for Inside Lewin Davis, so they could just keep him as Sean Parker.
there you go. I feel like well, because like I know Adam Driver worked with the Coens in Inside Llewyn Davis. I feel like Llewyn Davis is probably the film where they cast like the most younger type actors.
But actually, like Adam Driver, I feel like has like sort of the same physique as Army Hammer. So you know what? Dye his hair like a dirty blonde, and he could be the
Can
Winklevoss
you
twins.
imagine two Army Hammer and two Adam Drivers?
That would be intense.
It would be intense. It works perfect. So like
But
we're saying so like Jonah Hill as Mark Zuckerberg, Adam Driver as the Winklevi.
Yeah, at
Um,
the wake up, and then carry Justin Timberlake over from inside Llewyn Davis and keep him as Sean Parker.
and then we need somebody for Eduardo.
Oh yeah. Oh, was it the actor who played Han Solo, the young Han
Alden
Solo?
Ehrenreich.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
was
was
it what
thinking that too. I
yeah,
think that
was
would
it
be
yeah,
interesting.
yeah, he was in Hail Caesar, right?
If it were so simple.
No, you know what? I've actually never seen Hail Caesar, but I remember like seeing all the ads for it
Oh,
and
he is
like
one of the best parts of that. I think he would be an interesting Eduardo. Okay, so we got Jonah Hill as Mark Zuckerberg. We got um Alden Ehrenreich as Eduardo Saverin, Justin Timberlake returning. We got Adam Driver replacing real cannibal Army Hammer as the Winklevi. We
well,
need somebody
what
for Erica Albright.
we need Erica Albright. Um, who is the friend of the Winklevi in that
Oh
movie?
yeah, I'm trying to
Like I know the actor was Max Minghella, but I can't remember the
Divya Narendra.
okay.
So I feel like those are like the two main performances we'd still need to figure
Oh,
out.
and then
Carey Mulligan, because she was in Inside Llewyn Davis.
well, I think Carol yeah, I think Carrie Mulligan would maybe fit better as Marilyn Delpy, who was Rashida Jones in The Social Network.
That's interesting. Um, trying to think.
I mean Erica
Because I
All
feel like a lot of the casting we're doing are from a lot of Hail Caesar and Inside Llewyn Davis.
but
And
I know, but like those are like the two movies that have like the
well, no, I'm
most
trying to think of who
like
else was in them that are like relatively
well,
younger.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of the other women in like Hail
Or
Caesar, like Scarlett Johansson, that would be
or
interesting.
or or um or for Marilyn Delpy, what about Kelly McDonald from No Country?
I would love that. I love Kelly McDonald. So then maybe Carrie Mulligan as Erica Albright.
Either her or yeah, because I know Hail Caesar has like a bunch of people.
Yeah, because
Oh
ScarJo's in it.
Allison Pill.
That'd be interesting. I would
Uh,
probably go with Carrie Mulligan if I was going to go with anybody.
okay.
I'm just imagining that one scene with Jonah Hill would be Jonah Hill and Carrie Mulligan at the beginning,
Yeah.
and at least there wouldn't be like 100 takes of anything
Oh yeah.
making this movie because it's not Fincher. Apparently, Coen Brothers run a really tight ship on set. Like
Well,
they have everything planned, ready to go, and just
well,
go for it.
Clint Eastwood is also like that.
Yeah, he's an extreme. It's just like, well, go ahead and better get it in
Just
2 takes.
imagine like because Clint Eastwood is 90. Imagine Clint Eastwood's Social Network.
Oh my god, that is for another episode.
Yeah.
Mix and match.
So I think we pretty much covered the cast, and then seeing as the Coen brothers write most of their movies, like they would write they would write the screenplay for this.
Yeah, what's interesting is because this wasn't adapted from anything, was it?
Yeah, it was
Oh
adapted
no,
from
you have the Accidental Billionaires.
yeah.
So, from what I understand, their process is one of them sits at the computer or typewriter, and the other one's reading the book, and they're going along like putting it together. It's an
Okay.
interesting process because that's why like No Country for Old Men has so many like lines ripped right from the book is because they would literally sit there reading it. One of them would read it out loud, and then one of them would be typing out the script.
Okay.
See, that's teamwork right there. Um, yeah, so it'd be the Coen brothers. That yeah, I think the dial like obviously it'd be a lot less zippy,
Oh yeah, no, for sure.
but it would be much. I feel like much more biting with
Mhm.
certain things, and then yeah, ratchet up like very unexpected violence. We're gonna watch Alan and Aaron like beat the crap out of Jonah Hill.
Or or the Winklevoss twins ganging up on Mark Zuckerberg and beating him to death with rowing oars.
Do you still think that the film would have the same kind of structure?
I
Because they're not the kind of
I
directors to
they're,
do.
they're the Coen brothers screenplays tend to be pretty like pretty straightforward in terms of like in terms of time, but
Yeah,
like I can't really think of any of their movies that have a non-linear
I think
structure.
the only thing would be Inside Llewyn Davis with its like looped kind of story because like it winds up exactly where it started kind of thing.
All right,
But
well,
besides that,
yeah, I mean, it's been a long. I
yeah,
haven't seen that. I haven't seen
I
that since it came out, so I
I
don't
would
really.
expect this to be a lot more linear and may I don't wouldn't necessarily use the same framing device of like the depositions and stuff like that.
um, I mean, yeah, yeah. This one would definitely be more linear, but
It definitely would say based on true events, and it'd be right this time. Unlike Fargo, which was a total lie.
uh,
I feel like it would be like more straightforward in terms of structure because yeah, the Coen brothers don't really do nonlinear storytelling. Most of their films are very linear, and I feel like it would have that kind of vibe. So I guess I don't know if it would really use the deposition as like a framing device. That would make it a very, very different experience.
do
And
do you think they would still have the depositions?
maybe as like wrapping up towards the end, like because I still feel like there would be some poignant moments at the very end of them, but I feel like it would be one of those kinds of things where it gets to that at the end to like hammer home the emotion, and I feel like I would love for this to have like some kind of similar voiceover at the very beginning, like No Country for Old Men. I guess if you had to have voiceover from somebody at the beginning, who would you pick? Who would guide us
I
into this story?
I think you know what, if I had to have a voiceover for the Social Network, I would probably choose Eduardo because seeing as he was the one who was closest to Mark Zuckerberg throughout the whole movie, like he had a full view of like the type of person that Mark was, and like seeing as how they go from being best friends to him being like so betrayed by him,
Hmm.
I would love to hear like his thoughts of what was happening.
Yeah, that would be interesting. The one other one that I thought of is what if it's Kelly McDonald and like she does this voiceover at the beginning and then she just shows up at the end with a
Yeah,
deposition and have that moment with him. I feel like it would be very much like Sam Elliott from like Big Lebowski, where you think like this is just some other like narrator, and then all of a sudden they're in the film. I thought
that
that
could
would be an interesting choice. It's hard to
that could
beat
work.
though, like that voiceover at the beginning of No Country for Old Men is just amazing. I just when I read the book, I just thought all those interludes in Tommy Lee Jones's voice because I couldn't. I'm like, I'm not gonna deprive myself of that. But no, I think either way, I feel like I agree. If it was one of the main characters, I think Eduardo would be the right one to voice over that in. I just thought it'd be an interesting touch. Like it's Kelly McDonald, and you're just like, oh, I guess it's just some random narrator. And then she pops up at the end and has that moment with Mark Zuckerberg in terms of like kind of calling him out.
Yeah, because the thing is, the movie, it's about Mark Zuckerberg. Like we like he's the main character. Like we always know like what he's thinking. So so I want to know what I want to know what's going through his best friend's mind because like we're not always with Eduardo in that movie. So like I want to like I want to get a look inside his mind and know what's going on.
Exactly. I guess, Vinny, is there anything else specifically that you wanted to hit on in terms of what this Coen Brothers social network will look like?
Uh, right. Trying to think. Hmm. What what kind of songs do you think they would use for the soundtrack for this?
That's interesting because what's interesting is No Country for Old Men barely has any music in it. Like very little. I feel like this movie would have a pretty consistent score from Carter Burwell, and it would definitely be like that somber kind of like Fargo type score because this isn't like a happy story.
No.
Um, I feel like it would have. I'm trying to think because the Coens, especially recently, haven't made a ton of contemporary films. So like they haven't really used contemporary music
Mhm.
in things. And I feel like this story would have to have contemporary music in it.
Yeah, because I feel like their most contemporary movie like in the last couple of decades was like Burn After Reading to like I haven't seen
Oh,
that
I
in a
guess
while.
that is
That
actually the most contemporary movie that they've done in the past like 15 years. Um and that's the thing. I don't know what their taste in music is in terms of contemporary music because you got the blue like the folk and bluegrass of Oh Brother Where
oh
Art
brother, well
Thou.
no, yeah.
You have even something like Intolerable Cruelty. They used Elvis and stuff like that. Um And then Inside Llewyn Davis was that like specific folk music
Mhm.
of like the late 60s and stuff like that.
Yeah, and like I know I haven't seen this movie, but I'm sure they used it. Like I'm sure the Ballad of Buster Scruggs used like folky like folksy
Yeah,
kind
it
of
was
music.
very like old, it was very like Americana old. Like there's a musical number in Ballad of Buster Scruggs, and it's Tim
Okay.
Blake Nelson singing like this. And it's like when a cowboy gets his wings. And so it's like all that kind of, and even like Big Lebowski, they have Credence, they have Bob Dylan, they have Kenny Rogers. um, what would be interesting? I feel like would be more the most attitude type music that they've used in films have been like that counterculture 60s music.
Mhm.
Like they use it in A Serious Man
Oh
because
yeah.
like the kid listening to the music and stuff like that. This seems like an odd choice, but I feel like it would have a bunch of like late 60s rock music that's just like counterculture kind of stuff. I don't know why, but it would feel very Cohen's and would definitely make this feel very Cohen's.
That makes sense.
That would be interesting. This would be an interesting movie, to be honest.
I'd
Because
watch
like
it.
I would definitely watch it. I love the Coens, but I really find it hard to like. Could somebody do this story better than what David Fincher did? And I kind of don't think they can. I do feel like it would have a very different feel, and I feel like it would be much more because the Coen brothers don't do true stories. Like they're too fantastical
Mhm.
and like the absurd in the worlds that they create. It would just be very interesting seeing that from like the social network with this like exaggerated existence to it. Because like yeah, you would have like Mark Zuckerberg getting beaten with rowing paddles and getting beat up by Eduardo in the middle of like the Facebook offices and stuff like that. So I would definitely have a fun time with this. They have they have my money, so I thought this
No,
was a
I,
fun
I,
little experiment. So
well, 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 you could either have the Winklevoss twins beating Mark with the oars, or you can have the scene where Eduardo goes into the Facebook office and he's like Mark, and then he beats Mark across the face with a keyboard.
oh my god. Oh, oh, that would be crazy. And just seeing like Justin Timberlake trying to break up the fight. Now he would hide under a desk.
Yes, he would.
That definitely would be. I could definitely see that happening. And they would just have to like pull. They would get security in there and everything. This has been an
Yep.
interesting experiment, Vinny, and I appreciate you being the first penguin to jump in and try this out.
Oh, I'm happy to do it, and I hope I would definitely do it again.
Yeah, I'm the plan it because like I cycle through episode like segments of this show, so this definitely will be back. I had a lot of fun with this.
As did
And
I.
I want to thank Jess, who I gave her 5 choices and she randomly picked the director. Well, she didn't randomly pick, she picked. She's like, there could only be one. And I'm like, I knew you were gonna pick the Coen brothers. I probably was gonna pick the Coen brothers anyway. So, but Vinny, thank you again for joining me on this fun new venture here on Wasteland Talks.
Thank you for having me.
And thank all of you out there for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.